This is Chuck the Mo, and today's topic is Into Darkness. Let's start with a quick talent rundown. Note that this is from a PvE point of perspective. We want to put 14 points into the discipline tree. The first 5 points go into one specialization, increasing our damage with wands by 25%. We want to put 2 points into improved power of fortitude. This increases our stamina buff by 30%. We want to put 3 points into silent resolve, reducing the threat generated by our spells by 12%. If you have another priest in your group that also spec'd into improved power of fortitude, you might spend 5 points into silent resolve. We want to put 1 point into inner focus. It's on a 3-minute cooldown, and it reduces the mana cost of the next spell by 100% and increases its critical strike chance by 25%. You want to use this ability with your highest rank of Mind Blast, as this is your only shadow damaging spell that is capable of critting. We want to spend 3 points into meditation, allowing us that 15% of our mana regeneration continues while casting. So let's talk about the shadow tree. We want to spend 5 points into Spirit Tap, which increases our spirit by 100% for 15 seconds after we kill the target that yields experience. It will also allow us that 50% of our mana regeneration will continue while casting. We want to spend 5 points into Shadow Focus, which reduces our target's chance to resist our shadow spells by 10%. This talent is extremely powerful. It's like 10% spell hit on items. We want to put 2 points into Improved Shadow Word Pain. It will give us 2 free extra ticks to our dot. We want to spend 2 points into Shadow Affinity, reducing the threat that we generate with our shadow spells by 16%. We want to put 5 points into Improved Mind Blast, reducing the cooldown of Mind Blast by 2.5 seconds. Mind Blast is our best spell for burst damage, so this increases our burst potential. We want to spend 1 point into Mind Flay. Mind Flay will be the spell that you cast the most, so you want to put 1 point into this. We want to put 3 points into Shadow Reach, which increases the range of our shadow spells by 20%. We want to put 5 points into Shadow Weaving. Shadow Weaving allows us to stack a debuff on the target up to 5 times, which increases the shadow damage dealt to the target by 3% per stack. This is one of the main reasons why a Shadow Priest is brought into the raid. We want to put 1 point into Vampiric Embrace. Vampiric Embrace debuffs the target and makes it heal and heals our party for 20% of the damage that we deal to that target. We also want to put 2 points into Improved Vampiric Embrace, which increases the bonus from 20% healing to 30% healing per point of damage. We want to put 5 points into Darkness, increasing our shadow spell damage by 10%. And we want to put 1 point into Shadow Form, which also increases our shadow damage by 15% and reduces the physical damage that we take by 15%, but we may only be able to cast Discipline or Shadow spells while being in Shadow Form. So what about gearing? There are mainly 2 stats that you want to focus on as a Shadow Priest, and that is Spell Damage or Shadow Spell Damage and Intellect. Hit rating is not so important as we already have 10% hit from our talents. Crit rating is also not so important because most of our damage spells are not capable of critical strikes. If you want an additional stat, Spirit can be useful if you can make a good use of the Spirit Tap talent. But mainly for damaging you want to focus on Spell Power and Intellect. So if you want to compare 2 items with different values of Spell Power and Intellect, You might want to ask yourself what fight is coming next, because spell power is good for short fights if you want to put out lots of damage. Intellect allows us to sustain longer and cast more spells. In most cases, you want to prioritize spell power over intellect. This is because spell power will give you more DPS on shorter fights. Also, if the fight gets longer, you are capable of downgrading or downranking your spells in order to sustain for a longer time. If you want a rough baseline, 1 point of spell power is worth 1 point of intellect. So let's take a look at our abilities. There are only 4 abilities a Shadow Priest should use while DPSing. The first spell is Mind Blast. It has a 1.5 second cast time and deals a high amount of direct shadow damage. It has 5.5 seconds cooldown if you spec 5 points into the reduced cooldown. It costs 350 mana points. This talent is very useful for bursting or dealing high amounts of damage in a short time. If you want to burst, you want to use this ability on cooldown. The next ability is Mind Flay. Mind Flay costs 205 mana and is a channeled spell. It deals its damage over 3 seconds and also slows the target movement speed by 50%. This is your filler spell you want to cast whenever there's nothing else to cast. The next spell is Shadow Word Pain. Shadow Word Pain is our dot. It deals damage over 24 seconds every 3 seconds, so it has 8 ticks. It costs 470 mana. The fourth spell is Vampiric Embrace. Vampiric Embrace is an instant cast with a 10-second cooldown which debuffs the target and allows us to heal our group members for shadow damage that we dealt. So how am I supposed to use these abilities? Well, the clear answer for that is it depends, because a Shadow Priest really has some serious mana issues if he's running a normal dungeon, but there are some tips that you might want to follow in order to make your life a little bit easier. The first tip I would give you is that during trash packs or normal pulls, you shouldn't use Mind Blast. You should only use Mind Flay and Shadow Word Pain. Only dot targets with Shadow Word Pain if you are sure that the target will live for 18 seconds or longer. You want to dot as many targets with this dot as possible. Just fill with Mind Flay, as those two spells are very mana efficient. You can use Mind Blast in order to snipe kills. This can be very important and powerful, as you spec 5 points into Spirit Tap, allowing you that whenever you kill a target, that you will get increased mana regeneration. So if a mob has low health like 15% or 10%, you might want to cast a Mind Blast and try to snipe the kill. It's also helpful if you have a lower rank of Mind Blast for that reason in your cast bar. Maybe rank 3 might be a useful spell, as with some spell power gear it should deal around 300 to 400 damage, which is like 5 to 10% of a normal dungeon mob's health. Also, you should have Mind Flay rank 1 in your bars, as whenever you run completely spamming Mind Flay rank 1 is often more useful than using your wand. Also, don't forget that even while in shadow form, you are capable of casting Power Word Shield. This sometimes saves lives. You might want to use this. So this was my short Shadow Priest guide. I hope you liked it. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe. Also, you might want to check out any of my other guides. So, see you soon.